Hey, welcome to the Live Like It's True podcast, where we look at some of the most interesting and surprising stories of the Bible. Stories that collectively all tell the true story about God. I'm your host, Shannon Popkin, inviting you to open your Bible with me, to drink in this true story and to live like it's true. Sandra Currie, welcome to Live Like It's True.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for having me, Shannon. I'm so excited.
I am too. So let's just tell our listeners how we first met. So I think I spoke at an event that you were at. Is that right?
Yes, it was at a 3-day women's retreat at Spring Hill. And that's where I first met you and got to
One of the
know
best
you.
camps.
Oh my
One of the
gosh.
best camps ever, right? Yes.
Hands down. Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's where I got to
Such
hear
a
you
great.
speak for the first time.
Yeah, and then I think we connected afterward, and you were on one of my book launches.
It
So
was.
was that was Comparison Girl, right?
Yes, it was. Such a great study. And I did it twice.
Oh, that's so fun. That book is dear to my heart, and like you're a Zumba instructor. And so
Yes.
like,
Yes.
I'm sure anything related to fitness and, comparison is a thing, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We as women are so good at that, aren't we? Comparing
Yeah.
in
Yeah,
any and all
totally.
situation.
Yeah. Especially when you're like looking in a mirror, which you do
I
at Zumba, I'm sure.
Very big mirror. Yes.
Exactly. So you were part of the launch team, and then that was right when the world shut down with COVID. And
Yes.
I decided to do these online groups because I'm like, well, nobody's doing Bible study at church right now. Maybe we'll just serve our women, do some online groups. And so we put together these online groups, and you were in one of those groups. And I remember getting an email from you at some point during that study, just a desperate cry for prayer. And so this is when your world was just kind of coming unhinged, not just because of COVID, but tell us what was going on in your life at that point.
Oh, goodness. Okay. So it was sort of a two-part betrayal reveal, which looking back on it, that was all God because in March of 2020, a week before the world shut down, I found out that my husband, we call it the just a kiss moment. And
Okay.
so I found out that he kissed another woman.
How did you find that out?
So I'm not one to look at his text messages. I'm really not, but he had a procedure that morning and I was so suspicious for a while, and something just told me to look, and he didn't have his phone. I had access to his phone, and so he was sleeping. So I looked, and just the words that they had conversed that morning told me things, didn't tell me everything, right? But it just gave me a big clue. And then when I kicked him out and he came back and we had a conversation, he was like, it was just a kiss. I promise it was just a kiss. And so I had no other choice but to believe him. I wanted to believe him. And so the world shut down a week later. And so we shifted from dealing with that to dealing with homeschooling our children. We have 4 boys, to how wiping down our groceries with with wipes and just
Right.
what masks and navigating this whole thing and him working from home and me teaching Zumba on Zoom, which that was fun. But just
Zumba on Zoom.
everything shifted, right? So our focus shifted from this crisis to the world crisis, but it was always in the forefront of my mind, right? And we couldn't really get counseling, we couldn't really get help. It was everything was we just didn't have the tools that we needed, right? And so now fast forward to July, 4 months later, and I had
Actually, can I interject there for a second?
Absolutely.
So let's go back to that just a kiss conversation. You looked at his phone, which maybe he felt like was a betrayal of his privacy. I've often heard that, like, you shouldn't have been looking there. But prompted by, I think, probably the Spirit, because our God does not want us to keep things hidden from one another or from him. And especially in marriage, we are called one flesh. There is no separation. There is no division. And I'm not going to say that, my husband and I have no privacy from one another. We're like that couple. We don't like to be in the bathroom with each other when we're using the bathroom. I know some couples are like, there are separate times in our lives. But we have full access to each other's bank accounts, to each other's, phones, like to each other's, emails. There's never anywhere that we have set private where we're interacting with other people and our spouse is not invited into those spaces. And so, to pick up his phone and read a message that I'm sure felt like betrayal. What can you share? Like what exactly it said that gave you a clue that this wasn't?
So, because I did have access to his phone. So he was very good at deleting all of their text messages and their conversation.
Okay.
However, him having that procedure that morning and them conversing back and forth because she knew that he was having this done. And she had said, I love you. And he had said, I love you back. And so that's when people that are just
Oh.
friends don't say that. And they worked together.
Yeah.
And so that's when I thought, okay, well, you're not just friends. That's not a conversation and
No.
I just remember he really didn't, and normally he would attack me and say, hey, why'd you look at my phone? And I'm not really sure if he did. I'm going to be honest. I really don't remember if he did or not, because that did not become, he knew he was more in the wrong than I was, I suppose, at the time. He probably did bring it up, but I don't think it mattered because he was outed and he knew he was outed, but he was trying to be not outed more than what the real truth was. So,
and you know what, that whole scenario right there just so reminds me of the Judas story, because Judas betrayed with a kiss, and the kiss was so much more than just a kiss, right? I mean, he was such duplicitousness in that moment, such hypocrisy. In Matthew 26, Jesus said, friend, why have you come? After he kisses him, friend, why have you come? Still a friend
and
to Judas.
he knew already what was going to transpire. So
yes, he
still
did.
Considered him a friend.
Unlike us, Jesus had supernatural understanding. He kept telling everybody, my time has come, my hour is not here. And he told the disciples multiple times, I'm going to be crucified. It's going to be the chief priests. It's going to be the council. And he also told them at the Passover meal just before this, that one of them was going to betray him.
Yep.
And it's so interesting. Like they must have so trusted Judas because nobody said, is it him? They all said, is it me? Is it me? Throughout the whole time. I mean, Judas was someone, he had such a gift. He had full access to Jesus. He had full access to the truth for 3 years. He heard it over and over. I mean, those 12 men had more opportunity to understand the world and the kingdom of God and truth versus darkness. I mean, he heard all the sermons. Yeah. He saw all the miracles. I don't know if all, but he saw more than anybody. Like these disciples, they had a front row seat to Jesus. Yeah. And yet he chose money. Yeah. Like money was the thing. He made that his God. Yeah. And I was just thinking today about how we've had this recent sermon series at church about idols, and how the ancients understood, they saw that money was not just money. Sex was not just sex. power was not just power. That's what our pastor keeps saying in the series. These hungers in our life, they're such open opportunities for the enemy. And what the enemy does is deceives us with these idols. And in another sermon, one of our pastors said, idols will always make you hurt you.
Ooh, that's good.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Idols will make you hurt you. And that's what happened with Judas. I mean, this idolatry of money, just like days before Mary had poured out all this expensive perfume on Jesus's head. She had anointed Jesus. And she kind of like mimicked the earlier prostitute woman who wiped it was very, very unusual to let her hair down, but it was like this, I am giving you everything, like a bride would to her husband. And she just poured it all out at Jesus's feet. It was beautiful. I mean, she wanted it to be this beautiful moment of worship. To exalt Jesus. And Judas looked at that and said, oh, this money could have been used differently. And so he was all about like elevating the money over the worship of Jesus.
Yeah.
And so this was his pattern throughout. Money had him.
Yep.
He never could have enough money, but money had him completely.
Yeah.
And Judas, his idol, made him hurt himself. Ultimately, the way that this played out is Judas committed suicide.
Yes. Yeah.
That's what idols do. They betray us. They tell us that they're going to be satisfying and they never are. And that's what happened with your husband too. He was in the middle of a scam of the enemy. Now he participated, right? But this was him choosing an idolatry. He was not worshiping God with his marriage, with his life, with his desires. He had this power over him, and he succumbed. He gave into it.
Yeah.
And it hurt you. Just like this betrayal of Judas, it hurt Jesus. So tell me, like, I know that you said you kind of like had to numb out and go do all COVID things. But in that moment I'm sure there was shock. Were there any other, like, I don't know, what were the questions going through your head?
Serious faith deserves serious conversation. At Round the Table, we produce thoughtful, gospel-centered content grounded in the truth of God's Word. Pull up a chair and join us where truth and life meet. Visit roundthetable.co.
All of the questions, being so confused, wanting to believe him, but then really discerning, do I believe him? And that is a huge mind game, because this is the man I've been married to for 18 years, together for over 20, and 4 children, and not wanting a divorce, wanting so badly to believe him, but yet still struggling with, is this the truth? And that was really hard.
I know that when we talk about, we're in the judgy series right now. And when we talk about judging other people, there's a question of, am I judging them or am I exercising good judgment? And good judgment, we should not dismiss good judgment for the sake of not judging,
Yes. That's a good line.
Yeah. We should not just set aside all the wisdom that, like looking at a text that says, I love you, and hearing my husband say it was just a kiss. I think good judgment says, maybe not. Right. On the other hand, here's what I know about judgy girls. We sometimes assume that we know things that we don't know.
Yeah.
We read into things. We feel like we have the gavel in our hand. We feel like we have gathered all of the evidence, all of the testimony, and it is our rightful place to pound our gavel and convict, send a verdict, condemn, and ultimately, send this final verdict. Like, you are worthless. You are nothing. You are despicable in my eyes. And I don't get the sense that you were there yet. with this text message. I think sounds like you wanted to believe. But how did you exercise good judgment in that scenario? Just for those who are listening and weighing, like, what is good judgment? How did you exercise good judgment? Or do you think you didn't?
Well, I wonder how I would answer that question if COVID hadn't have happened. And I know that may sound like a cop out, but I think I didn't have the opportunity to think straight. My vision kind of went from this situation to COVID. And also when the world shut down, it's not like we could separate because there was no place to go. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say that I stayed or settled, but I think because of this happened on a Friday, he came back home on Sunday night. We had a conversation, and
so he left for a couple of days.
Yes, he went to his mom's house. And again, COVID hadn't happened yet. So he went to his mom's house, and there were some conversations that I had with his mom, and she said if I don't take him back, he might leave altogether. And I mean, I don't think she was wrong, but I also think that was a little bit of a mind game for me as well.
That's questionable judgment.
Yes.
We don't do things because of potential outcomes. We do things because they're right. We hold on to truth. We hold on to justice. And I understand her. She's probably speaking out of fear. And I mean, if she's listening right now, oh my goodness, my heart goes out to you. To imagine one of my kids betraying their spouse it's like the worst possible scenario. And so I have absolutely no judgment in that scenario. I think in those moments when I am so fearful, so concerned of what might happen, I sometimes stray from good judgment too. And that's why we need good people in our lives, good objective people who can say, yeah, but let's think about this. Let's think about this more carefully.
Even at that point, I didn't want to lose my husband. I didn't want to lose everything that we had built, and desperation. Okay, I'm going to believe you.
Yeah. Yeah. So was there anyone else that you confided in during this time?
Yes. So actually I was doing your book. I was in that group, and there was a couple girls that actually stayed on after one of the Zoom calls. And I said, oh my gosh, you guys, this is what happened. And I probably confided more in them than I did with my husband, because I was unraveling. But he has anxiety, so he was also unraveling when it came to COVID. However, I did not realize at the time, until after, that she was also still in the picture, even though he said she wasn't. So
the other woman.
So he was trying to, because she knew I didn't know the whole truth, and then was holding things over his head and was threatening to tell me, was threatening all of these things. And so here I thought he was struggling with all the anxiety when it came to COVID. So me and my codependency, it was, I'm going to make sure I protect my husband's anxiety because of COVID. Well, I did not know all of these other things that were going on until later.
Let's first go back to that conversation on the Zoom call, because I just really want to hear how that, I think that's a helpful thing for people to hear, that you couldn't open your heart fully to your husband. You weren't sure. A huge breach of trust had happened. And so to use him as your confidant wouldn't have, you didn't know how much he was withholding. And so to open your heart to a couple of women, Christian women who know Jesus, that's important. That is good. That is right. We are never meant to follow Jesus alone, especially when we've been betrayed. I mean, look at Jesus the night that he was betrayed. he didn't just go off by himself. He brought his disciples with him to the Garden of Gethsemane. I mean, if God himself needs friends around him during a really hard time, like what kind of a message does that send to us?
Absolutely.
We are not to have this sense of self-sufficiency and autonomy. The Lord demonstrated, he revealed the pattern for when we're going through hard times. And I mean, so sadly, they fell asleep on him. They didn't keep watch with him. They didn't bear with him in this burden that he was carrying, but he showed us what it looks like to do it the right way. You too, Sandra, like you demonstrated bearing your soul with these women.
When it first happened,
Scripture is one story woven together from Genesis to Revelation. On Gospel Threads, 3 Christian women sit down to trace the gospel story and ask how they shape our lives today as wives, mothers, friends, and followers of Jesus. Gospel Threads is part of the Round the Table family of podcasts. Pull up a chair and join the conversation.
I don't really think I talked to too many people. I do think there were people that knew. And there was one girlfriend. So now we're going to fast forward just a little bit because I kind of already did. But there was one girlfriend I had talked to a little bit. And this was a couple days before I found out about the full affair.
Betrayal part 2. Let's say betrayal part 1 and so there's the kiss part and then there's the betrayal part 2. So okay.
And I was talking to her and we were having a conversation, and this was a couple days before I found out. But what she said to me, and sometimes we need to hear this from very entrusted friends. She said, Sandra, people that are just friends, especially male, female, do not say I love you to each other. And I had pretended in my head that, well, I believed the lies, right? But hearing that from her, it was like this light bulb moment. But again, I don't think I was ready to hear the whole truth. It was still really stirring in my heart that what is the truth? What is the truth? And so,
well, and what that friend said to you, that was good judgment. That was clear-headed, good judgment.
And she was so brave to tell me that, to just be like, listen, Sandra, you are lying to yourself.
and don't we need more of that in this world? I think we are so afraid to judge that we set aside good judgment, even on behalf of our friends that we love. I mean, I've talked to so many people who are afraid to tell someone, like, I don't think you should get this divorce. I don't think you should change your gender. I don't think you should have this affair. I don't think you should, fill in the blank.
Yeah.
They're so afraid to share good judgment with a friend because they don't want to be judgmental.
Yeah.
And so,
or
like,
lose a friendship out of it, right? Like, they don't want to.
And you can. I just talked to someone recently who is losing a friend because she's saying, nope, this divorce is not a God honoring divorce. There's no there's no grounds for divorce, basically. And her friend is like, well, I want it. And so, there's another person in the picture. And so, I mean, just ask yourself, like, am I holding up good judgment? Your friend was good and right. And if somebody's listening and you have not shared something similar, a betrayal, a breach in your marriage, please reach out to a godly friend, someone you can trust, a woman in your church. And if you're not in a church, you need to get in church. If you're not in a Bible study, you need to join one, like Sandra did. She had a group, she had something in place so that when her world fell apart, she had someone to talk to. But okay, so here we are. We're in July. You've just had this conversation with your friend who says, Sandra, people don't say that. And then what did you do?
We were actually on our way to go camping. And so now I'm going, okay, now what do I do? Because now I'm going to spend the weekend. And so we went camping, and I remember James even asking me, what's wrong? What's wrong? And nothing, I'm fine. And he was super kind that weekend and sort of, He was holding my hand. And we got home. I knew I had to have this conversation. And I had this top of the stairs moment. And I'm standing at the top of the stairs. He's at the bottom of the stairs. We're arguing about something. And all I heard was Grand Rapids. And so
Not from him.
it was in my head. It was the Lord speaking to me, Grand Rapids. And I knew exactly what it meant. And so in January, and again, I knew of this woman. He talked about her. And so her dad had passed away in January, and he had to go to his funeral and be with her and all these things. And I have to be the supportive coworker and blah, blah, blah. And the following weekend, he left to go to Grand Rapids, which he never goes on any little trips by himself. And he's like, no, I'm going to go spend the time with my friend because he was in town from out of state. And can I just go spend time with my guy friend? And I was like, absolutely. Like, who am I to say no? Right. And so I knew that he went to Grand Rapids the week after her father's funeral. They went together. And of course, all of the things, I feel so stupid. How could I not have been, been challenging that more than what I did, even though I kind of had my suspicions, but I'm a very trusting and loyal person. So I just knew. I
think there's something important about what you just said. You felt that betrayal and then immediately felt shame.
Yeah.
And I want to superimpose that on Jesus. When we think about Jesus and Judas, do we ever picture Jesus like he should be ashamed of himself in that moment? That his friend betrayed him? Had Jesus done anything to deserve that?
No.
I think that's just helpful for us to look at that picture, because sometimes it is so easy to fall prey to the enemy when we have been betrayed, when someone else has diminished our value and our worth in such a significant way. It's like...
And we take ownership of that.
Yes, it's almost immediate. Let me just tell you a story about something that happened to me. I have not been betrayed in this way, Sandra. I have a husband who's been super loyal to me for 30 years. But there was this experience where we went to this hotel, and this was a weird hotel. I can't even describe it. Like, we found it on Priceline or something. There were clusters of hotel rooms. Like, think of like little, like 4 hotel rooms to a little building. And then there were these little paths you could go on.
Right.
And, it was real fancy, it was like for a romantic weekend. Well, my husband we were having issues with our car. So he went the next morning to take our car to a shop, and there was a knock on the door, and I looked through the little peephole, and there's a man wearing a red jacket. And to me, that just kind of symboled like, oh, he must be like from this place, like I don't know what I was thinking.
Staff?
Like a butler. No. He looks like a butler to me. Like, he's wearing a red jacket. So anyway, I just opened the door and just said, "Can I help you?" And he said, "Are you affordable?"
Oh.
And I froze in that moment. I was like, and then immediately I said, "No, I am not." And I slammed the door in his face.
Wow.
And so, I mean, he was propositioning me. And I don't know if that's what that hotel was for. I did report it to Priceline. Like, this is not what you think it is. But in that moment afterward, I felt this shame.
Yeah.
I felt shame.
Yeah.
And I thought, I don't want to tell my husband this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to tell anyone this. And then I thought, like, that is ridiculous. I did not knock on his door. I did not go after him. He came after me.
Yeah.
Like, he propositioned me. Shame is the most illogical response. And yet I felt it.
Yeah.
I felt it. And so I just want to call that out. Shame is the enemy's tactic. whether or not we've committed sin. You had not committed any sin, and your enemy still wanted to use shame.
Yeah.
You felt foolish. You felt dumb.
I did.
You felt like you had been naive. Yeah. You felt like you gave him, you felt like you'd been played. And I mean, we just have to take those thoughts and then impose them on Jesus. Should Jesus have felt foolish? Should he have felt naive? Should he have felt played? I mean, he knows people's minds,
yeah.
And he did not. He knew this was the enemy. And so I think, let's just keep those things straight. Okay. And I want you to hold on to that the next time shame comes knocking on your door.
Yeah.
Nope.
It's a very good
not
message.
A logical. Yeah. Yep. Let's use logic and good judgment in those moments.
And pause and say, is this the Lord or is this the enemy? And I think if you can actually right your mind and take a second and ask yourself those questions, you'll get an answer.
You know what? And that's so good because Jesus does not shame us.
Yeah.
He doesn't.
Yeah.
Shame is always from the enemy.
Yeah.
So, all right. So you had this message about Grand Rapids.
Yep.
And then what did you do?
We get back from camping and I said, we have to talk. And I can chuckle at this now. However, in the moment it was, listen, this is just what I did. So he was sitting down on the bed and I was standing up and I said, tell me what really happened. And he said, well, what do you mean? Tell me what really happened between you and, I'm not going to say her name, but between you and her. And he said, it was just a kiss. And I said, tell me what really happened. And he said, well, we did have sex. And he said, but how did you find out? Who told you? And I said, you just did.
Yeah.
The way the conversation flowed, he outed himself, but he didn't have any way to turn it around, right? But I truly believe, and we have had this conversation, that it was time. He was so anxious about it, and he couldn't even, he was so grateful that it came out, right, at the time, because he couldn't handle the blackmail anymore. He couldn't handle how I was handling things. Everything, all the anxiety that was swirling. He was so grateful for it to finally come out because he had no idea how I was going to handle it. Kind of, quote unquote, thinking that I already knew. Didn't have to come out and just straight out tell. How is he supposed to find that moment to say, excuse me, Sandra, right? He had no idea how to find that moment. So that moment was sort of found for him. And so at that moment, I told him he needed to leave. I didn't even want to talk to him. I couldn't look him in the eye. I couldn't even anything. So he had packed a bag. He actually sat the kids down and said, I've made a big mistake. The older two were kind of old enough to kind of understand, but he had said, Dad has made a big mistake. I'm going to go stay at Grammy's for a little while. I'm not really sure. I've really hurt your mom. Didn't get into specifics, but they were all crying. I'm crying. It was a hot mess. And he then leaves. And so I just thought, I don't even know what to do right now. And so they all kind of dispersed into their bedrooms and I dispersed into my bedroom and he left. And here I was in this, what do I do now? And what an awful, it was an awful feeling. Awful feeling.
Oh, no.
So
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Well, let's take these things separately. Your relationship with James. Let's talk about that first. You said you couldn't look him in the eye. What was behind that?
I could not look him in the eye for a very long time. A very long time. And I don't know. I don't know. I just think I didn't want him. Oh gosh, there's probably so many things behind that. I didn't want him to see my pain. I didn't want to see, I didn't know if I was going to see lies anymore. I didn't know if I was going to I just didn't want to give him that piece of me. But then at the same time, I could not look at him. I was so angry. And it took a long time.
Yeah. Well, did he feel that? Has he talked about, like, he noticed you wouldn't look him in the eye?
More of our conversations after this were not rooted in anger, but they were rooted in empathy and I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Mm.
So he would sort of grab my chin and be like, "You're not looking at me. Can you look at me?" Begging me to look at him. And he would just gently kind of try to redirect my face to look at him. He knew it. And he asked me many times, "Can you look at me?"
Mm. Oh, my heart is just breaking for you, Sandra, because I mean, part of that is still the shame, right? That lingering shame of, you betrayed me, you hurt me so deeply, and I can't trust you. There's something about making eye contact that there's some openness there. There is a welcoming of looking into one another's eyes. When humans are intimate, they face each other usually, right? Animals don't. There is an intimacy in marriage, and so part that has been broken. That trust has been broken. But I wonder if there's also an element of judgment and condemnation. I mean, there's righteous indignation, like he has been wrong, but when he's expressing empathy, and was there any part of you that just wanted to hold out and like, no, I'm not having that. You crossed a line and I have no place for you here.
Absolutely.
Was there any of that?
Absolutely. Because I had trusted him once and you lied to me, and I don't want you to touch me. I don't want you to look at me. And before this, I had no idea even what codependent meant. And so then when I started to recover and heal, I dived in and learned that I was very codependent. So I was always trying to protect him, always trying to be like, okay, so we've had this argument, we've had this thing, I'm wrong, but let's just sweep it under. And we both did. We were both very good about sweeping things under the rug. But in my wanting to protect him or not wanting to deal with something, that's what I did. I was not doing it this time. So I was not going to sort of fall into this place of like, okay, let's just move on now. And it just wasn't, it was just going to happen. And this was too big. And I felt so small in this big thing that happened, and absolutely not knowing what to do next. It was hard to make any decisions, but.
Okay. Well, I hate to leave our listeners hanging, but we're going to have to close with that and pick it up next time, because we do want to hear the rest of your story. There is a redemptive part of the story.
There is.
Yes,
there is. There's a spoiler alert. Yes, we are still married.
And I want to hear that. And so we're going to leave you hanging there, because that's a lot of stories have these in the middle parts where we're just left hanging and we don't know what God will do. But if that's you right now, listener, if you are in the middle of a betrayal, if you can't look someone in the eye, turn to Jesus, look to him, look to his example.
I'll add a little bit to that. I think there was part of me in that moment where, I've always had a relationship with the Lord, but I felt somewhat guilty with these huge 911 SOS prayers. And it was this moment of, I'm falling at the hands and feet of Jesus, yet I feel like I wasn't that close to you in the last couple months. And so then I was dealing with some of that guilt. And what I would say to your listeners is, if you're feeling like I shouldn't be why haven't I been praying lately? And now I'm just crying out to you in this moment. I would say to you, forget all of the guilt, forget feeling guilty for crying out to the Lord. That is why he's there. He wants to hear those prayers, whether they're 911 or SOS or desperation prayers, and you haven't prayed in months, years, weeks, whatever it is. Pray, 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 and pray. It doesn't matter because he hears you, and do not feel guilty about it.
Oh, that's such a good word. Jesus will never turn us away. His arms are always open to us. Picture his arms open on that cross. That's how much he loves you. And I heard, let me just close with this story. I heard this story of a doctor. This is in Gentle and Lowly by Dane Ortland. A doctor brought all these supplies to a foreign country. He's a medical doctor, and there was some disease that they were facing, and he had the solution. He brought all the supplies. He set up shop, but nobody trusted him, and nobody came for the treatment that he had to offer. Now, how is that doctor going to feel when somebody finally shows up? Somebody finally takes a risk and finally says, I do want to be healed. I mean, that's why he came. And that's why Jesus came. He did not come for the healthy. He came for the sick. He came for the people who are right in your position right now. So do not delay. Go to him. Run to him. His arms are open to you. Friend, I hope this conversation will inspire you to study this story for yourself straight from the Bible. Check the show notes for my free Live Like It's True workbook packed with resources to help you study the narratives of the Bible. We've also got links to the other resources mentioned in this episode and a link to my website where you can search our episodes by section and book of the Bible. Live Like It's True is part of the Round the Table Network. For more gospel-centered content that nurtures connection, deepens faith, and sparks conversation, go to roundthetable.co. Thanks so much for joining me, and now it's time to go live like it's true.